Today, we're diving into the cost approach to property valuation. This method is all about understanding how much it would cost to replace or reproduce a property, taking into account factors like depreciation and the property's effective age. We'll also explore how to maintain internal consistency throughout the valuation process, ensuring that every part of the analysis fits together logically. This structured approach helps provide a clear, reliable estimate of a property's value based on its current condition and the costs involved in its construction and upkeep. Here, we're looking at the three main approaches used in real estate valuation. Each one provides a different perspective on determining a property's value. The first is a market-based or sales comparison approach, which estimates value by comparing the property to recent sales of similar properties. This is often how buyers and sellers gauge value. Next, the income-based or income approach considers the value based on the income the property can generate and the return investors expect. This is particularly relevant for investment properties. Lastly, and the focus of this presentation, is the cost approach. This method values a property by adding the land value to the cost of replacing or reproducing the structure, then subtracting depreciation. We'll be diving deep into this cost approach in the upcoming slides. When we talk about the replacement cost logic in property valuation, the foundation is based on what it would cost to build a property today. Essentially, this method combines the value of the land as if it were vacant with the current cost of replacing or reproducing the improvements on that land. From this total, we then subtract any accrued depreciation. The core formula is straightforward. You start with a land value, add the new construction or replacement cost of the improvements, and then subtract the accrued depreciation. It's important that land and improvement are analyzed separately, allowing for a more precise valuation. For the improvements, we use the current cost, which means the market-supported cost of construction as of the appraisal date. After that, adjustments are made to reflect any physical wear and tear, functional obsolescence, or external depreciation factors, ensuring the final value accurately represents the property's current condition and market realities. Let's talk about accrued depreciation, an important concept in the cost approach to property valuation. Simply put, accrued depreciation is a loss in value that a property experiences from all causes over time. There are three main sources of this depreciation. First, physical deterioration, which is the wear and tear that happens due to use, aging, and sometimes deferred maintenance. Second, functional obsolescence refers to design or layout inefficiencies that make a property less useful or less desirable. Finally, external obsolescence comes from factors outside the property itself, like changes in the market or the location, which can negatively impact the property's value. Understanding these categories helps us accurately assess the true value of a property by accounting for the various ways it may have lost value. Now, let's talk about physical depreciation, which is one of the key types of depreciation in property valuation. Physical depreciation refers to the actual, observable wear and tear that a building experiences over time. This can be caused by everyday use, exposure to weather, and the natural aging process of the building materials. We measure physical depreciation by inspecting the visible condition of the property. For example, signs like worn roofing, faded or peeling paint, and deteriorating construction materials all provide clear evidence that the property is aging and losing value in this way. Essentially, these visible clues help us quantify how much the property has depreciated physically, giving us a better understanding of its current condition and value. Now, let's talk about functional depreciation, which is a key concept in property valuation. Functional depreciation happens when a property's design, layout, or systems are outdated and don't meet current market standards or buyer expectations. This mismatch can significantly affect the property's value because it reduces its appeal or usefulness. For example, outdated utilities or a layout that buyers find inconvenient can lead to what's called market mismatch. Functional depreciation is categorized into two types: curable and incurable. Curable depreciation can be fixed economically through renovations or replacements, meaning the cost to improve the property is reasonable compared to the value it adds. On the other hand, incurable depreciation refers to issues that are not practical to fix because the repair costs exceed the potential increase in property value. Understanding this helps us determine whether investing in upgrades makes financial sense for this property. External depreciation is a type of depreciation that comes from factors outside the property itself. These forces can include changes in market conditions, shifts in the neighborhood, or new zoning and regulatory rules. Because these causes originate outside the property, they are usually considered incurable, meaning you can't fix them through repairs or improvements to the building. Instead, they impact the property's overall value and must be accounted for when assessing its worth. Understanding external depreciation is crucial for making accurate property valuations, as it signals changes in the broader environment surrounding the site. Let's talk about the difference between effective age and chronological age, which is a core distinction in property valuation. Chronological age is simply the actual number of years since the property was built. For example, if a building was constructed 20 years ago, its chronological age is 20 years regardless of how well it has been maintained. On the other hand, effective age takes into account the property's condition and its remaining useful life. This means effective age could be shorter or longer than the chronological age. Using the same 20-year-old building as an example, if it has been well maintained or renovated, it might have an effective age of just 12 years. Conversely, if it has been neglected, it could perform more like a 28-year-old building. The key takeaway for valuation is that estimates of depreciation should align more closely with the effective age, rather than just using the simple calendar age. This approach provides a more accurate reflection of the property's true condition and value. Let's talk about how to calculate the effective age of a property. This process helps us translate the amount of wear and tear we've observed into an age equivalent, which is really useful for valuation. The core formula we use is effective age equals the accrued depreciation divided by the total depreciation at 100% age, multiplied by the remaining economic life. To break that down with an example, suppose the accrued depreciation is $180,000 and the full life depreciation is $600,000. The remaining economic life of the property is 30 years. First, we set our inputs, 180,000 divided by 600,000, then multiplied by 30. This gives us the ratio. Next, we find the ratio, which in this case is 0.30 or 30% depreciation. Finally, we compute the effective age by multiplying 0.30 by 30 years, resulting in an effective age of 9 years. So even if a property is chronologically older, its effective age might be less if it's been well maintained, reflecting its true condition and value more accurately. Let's talk about the 3 key consistency checkpoints in property valuation, particularly when using the cost approach. First, internal consistency is crucial. This means all parts of the valuation must logically fit together, supporting a well-defended final value. The first checkpoint is that the land value must be market supported. This means we anchor the site value in credible market evidence before adding any cost or depreciation assumptions. Without a solid market foundation, the whole valuation can be shaky. Second, replacement costs should reflect current construction standards. It's important to use present-day materials, design expectations, and labor conditions rather than relying on outdated specifications. This keeps the valuation relevant and accurate. Finally, depreciation rates need to be applied systematically. Whether dealing with physical wear, functional obsolescence, or external factors, the approach should be consistent and repeatable, reflecting the actual condition of the asset. This ensures the depreciation is fair and justifiable. Together, these checkpoints help maintain the integrity and reliability of the valuation process. Let's take a closer look at the validation framework we use to ensure the reliability of our property valuations. The key to a strong cost approach is internal consistency. Each assumption must logically support the next, and the final value should make sense when compared with actual market data. Our review standard calls for 4 specific cross-checks before we fully trust the indicated value. We follow a disciplined sequence, running the value conclusion through these checks to avoid any contradictions. This checklist is essential. It helps us eliminate conflicts between inputs, depreciation, and the final conclusion. The goal here is straightforward: to verify each assumption against external benchmarks, which strengthens the credibility and defensibility of the valuation analysis. Specifically, we examine 4 critical areas. First, land support, making sure the land value aligns with comparable sales. Second, cost support, confirming that the replacement cost is reasonable for property's type and location. Third, depreciation support, verifying that all depreciation elements are justified and properly documented. Finally, market logic, ensuring the final value logically compares to sales in the market. By following this framework, we produce valuations that stand up under scrutiny and provide reliable, defendable conclusions. When applying the cost approach, there are several common pitfalls we need to watch out for. First, overestimating replacement costs can inflate the property's value before we even consider depreciation, leading to an unrealistic estimate. Second, underestimating depreciation is another mistake. It makes older properties appear newer and more valuable than they actually are. Third, ignoring external obsolescence is a big risk because it overlooks value loss caused by unfavorable location or market conditions. Finally, using inconsistent comparable data disrupts the internal consistency between land value, cost, and depreciation inputs, which can throw off the entire valuation. It's crucial to avoid mismatches across these inputs to ensure an accurate and reliable assessment. Here, we're looking at how the cost approach is applied in a practical example. This approach really shines when every input can be clearly traced and supported. We have a Class B office property that's 12,000 square feet, located on a 0.80 acre site in a stable suburban market. The building is in good condition with new finishes and an effective age of just 5 years, which suggests minimal depreciation. Starting with the land value, we've determined it at $420,000 based on recent sales of comparable land in the area. For the building itself, the replacement cost new is $2,160,000, calculated at $180 per square foot, covering both direct and indirect costs. Now, we account for depreciation, which in this case totals 10% or $216,000, reflecting both physical wear and minor functional losses. Adding the land value and the depreciated cost of improvements gives us the final estimated property value of $2,364,000. This example clearly ties together land value, replacement cost, and depreciation into a single supportable valuation. To summarize, the cost approach to property valuation hinges on maintaining a disciplined logic throughout the process, from assessing land value to estimating depreciation and arriving at the final value. Remember, the formula is straightforward: land value plus construction cost minus depreciation. Speaking of depreciation, it comes from three main sources: physical wear and tear, functional obsolescence, and external factors impacting the property. Effective age is an important concept here. It's not just about how many years have passed, but the actual condition and remaining useful life of the property. Internal consistency is crucial to ensure that every part of the valuation fits together logically, making conclusions sound and credible. Finally, thorough documentation and market data support are essential to properly applying this approach, ensuring that your analysis is both structured and defensible.